I'm Jason Carter. Physical optimization defines my life. The day I was born, doctors nearly killed me with medical malpractice. They said I'd never walk. I've been proving them wrong for 35 years. It's easier than you think to obtain super optimal health. I've devoted my life to it, and with my help, you can too. I'm Jason Carter, and this is ENZYMENTAL. And welcome to ENZYMENTAL. I'm Jason Carter. So what the hell's wrong with caffeine anyway? You've heard me talk about energy alternatives to caffeine for the past few weeks, so I thought I'd talk about exactly what caffeine is and how it works, and why it can be so problematic. Caffeine stimulates the adrenal glands to secrete more adrenaline and cortisol than normal. Cortisol, as I've told you, is your stress hormone, and it's something you'll hear me talk about quite a bit here. Cortisol is an immediate attention hormone. It's a right now, forget everything else hormone. When cortisol is elevated, all your other long-term family planning tomorrow hormones go way down. Anything dealing with reproduction or digestion or anything that is not involved in surviving right now and getting through whatever's threatening you right now. Caffeine is also a diuretic, which depletes your body of essential water, vitamins, minerals, and promotes overall dehydration, something that also propels high cortisol levels because your brain thinks your access to water is damaged in some way. Adrenaline, despite being lauded in popular culture as something awesome and attractive, in excessive amounts is actually quite damaging. These are some of the things that contribute to a sensation of exhaustion that typically follows a caffeine high, we'll also call a caffeine crash. Coffee is the biggest contributor to caffeine intake, and average consumption for each person, at least in the US, is as much as around 10 pounds of coffee per year, or approximately 2 cups of coffee per person per day. Caffeine is a natural stimulant with both physical and psychological addictive potential, and over time, the stimulating effects of caffeine cannot be achieved unless larger amounts of the substance are ingested. So this increases one's desire and need for the substance, and to ensure that no addiction develops, it is often suggested to limit coffee intake to 1 cup per day, along with, if you can, a week off every few months. It's hard to do that because I'm a coffee drinker and I drink coffee every day, and I like it. So anyway, a cup of coffee or black tea would typically give you around 50 to 100 milligrams of caffeine. It will temporarily increase brain activity and energy levels. This stimulation also increases heart and respiratory rate, and initially it actually lowers blood sugar levels, stimulating the appetite and craving for sweets. Now the reason that comes around, that craving for sweets and carbs and easily digestible nutrients, is that your body knows that it can do a lot more with a protein-rich food or a fat-rich food or some very fiber-rich vegetables or fruits, but it knows that it can digest a simple carb or like sweets or something like that much quicker and get those nutrients into the bloodstream much quicker. So that's why when you're stressed out, when the cortisol is high, you actually crave sweets and simple carbs like pizza and pasta and breads and such. Fluctuation in blood sugar levels, such as those caused by caffeine, may also cause weight gain because as cortisol increases, that also increases insulin, which is a fat-storing growth hormone. Insulin is an evolutionary holdover from our days as cave people when food shortages were quite rampant, so our bodies are actually hardwired to survive times of famine. And insulin is one of the ways in which we do that. I often refer to insulin as like your body's financial advisor. It's something that when it behaves properly, it can show you, and it does show you, how to spend your blood sugar, which if you want to think of blood sugar as money in this case, how to spend your blood sugar responsibly so you have an appropriate amount of sugar in your blood at all times. As cortisol increases, so will insulin, and over time, if it's constant, the elevation of cortisol and insulin, each of them are fighting against each other, and this is one of the things that contributes to adrenal exhaustion, because insulin is saying, take this sugar out of the blood and put it into the muscle cells, but cortisol is saying the opposite. It says, no, keep all the sugar in the bloodstream so we have energy to run away because we are running away from something that's threatening us right now. And so this disagreement, if you will, between cortisol and insulin is what eventually causes insulin resistance over time And this is actually where the weight gain comes from, is that it shifts your body into a fat storing state with all that insulin, and that will cause weight gain. So that's one of the ways in which caffeine will contribute to weight gain. So additionally, the body releases stored fat and glucose for energy when caffeine is present, and decreases the blood supply to the intestines, resulting in poor digestion. You often see this in cases of high cortisol, which, when again all the blood is kept in the muscle cells because your body believes that your life is threatened, so it wants you to run away from whatever's threatening you. Adrenal function is also stimulated by caffeine, causing increased production of adrenal hormones, primarily adrenaline. Adrenaline will increase anxiety, irritability, and mood swings, and constantly stimulating the adrenals with caffeine can weaken the glands over time. Eventually, this adrenal stress can lead to chronic fatigue and tiredness. It's something that most people deal with in some form. Caffeine has a diuretic effect and, like I said, speeds elimination of various vitamins and minerals essential to health. Specifically, I'm talking about potassium, zinc, magnesium, the B-complex vitamins, and vitamin C. These are all quickly excreted with caffeine intake. Deficiency of these nutrients, primarily the B-complex vitamins and magnesium, will increase anxiety and decrease mental performance. The depletion of the B-complex vitamins and magnesium can interfere with the metabolism of carbohydrates, as well as hinder healthy liver function, and this can cause health problems because the liver plays a critical role in blood sugar regulation and maintenance of estrogen levels and overall body detoxification. Another concern regarding the diuretic effect of caffeine is that calcium is also lost with water via the kidneys. This has a negative effect on bone health, and caffeine also reduces the absorption of calcium from foods and supplemental sources, particularly when taken with meals. This lack of absorption and diuretic loss of calcium can, over time, increase the risk for osteoporosis, among other things. Caffeine causes a variety of hormone changes too, including an increase in a type of estrogen called estrone, along with an increase in a protein that binds and activates estrogens. Additionally, it's been found that women who have 2 or more cups of caffeinated coffee or even 4 cans of cola per day were found to be twice as likely to develop endometriosis as other women. Some foods, such as green tea that contain caffeine naturally, like coffee does, also contain beneficial nutrients. Green tea contains polyphenols and also an amino acid called L-theanine, which have antioxidant and relaxing activity, and may actually be useful in the treatment and prevention of many health conditions. The major polyphenols in green tea are flavonoids, with EGCG as the most significant active component. Additionally, commercial preparations are available that have been decaffeinated, and they still contain 60 to 80% of the total polyphenols. The question is really then whether the health benefits found in the active components of green tea will actively outweigh the negative impacts caffeine can have on the body and mind. The answer is individual to everyone because each person's sensitivity to caffeine is unique and different. A caffeine-sensitive person might suffer a number of side effects from small amounts of caffeine. On the other hand, some individuals can consume larger amounts of caffeine and not notice any effects. Therefore, depending on your own sensitivities, it can be positive to drink green tea in moderation for its healthful attributes. Many pre-workout supplements will also include caffeine in the mix because caffeine does temporarily increase circulation. If you are motivated to decrease your caffeine use, unfortunately, most people find that doing that abruptly, especially, it's very unpleasant and it causes a lot of withdrawal symptoms, including headaches, depression, fatigue, because again, caffeine is a drug. It's natural, but it's a drug. There's no other way to put it. So to avoid these unfavorable symptoms, it's best to gradually reduce caffeine intake over time, slowly decrease caffeine intake by incorporating other non-caffeine beverages with similar looks and tastes. There are a lot of coffee alternatives out there, things that look and taste just like coffee but have no caffeine at all, things that were actually developed by people who love the taste of coffee but couldn't tolerate either the acid or the caffeine it gives you, so they would set out to make an herbal coffee alternative that looks and tastes like coffee but doesn't give you any caffeine or acid, and so those preparations typically use things like roasted figs, roasted barley, chicory, those nutrients that have a similar taste to coffee. You can also drink ginger tea. It can be used as a safe natural stimulant to vitalize and energize in lieu of caffeine. And in addition, vitamin and mineral supplements like what I've talked about before, CoQ10, ubiquinol, chlorophyll, along with regular exercise, can really increase energy levels and improve overall well-being. So again, what are the side effects of caffeine use? Anxiety, irritability, fatigue, depletion of essential nutrients including potassium, magnesium, zinc, B-complex vitamins, and vitamin C, diarrhea, dizziness, frequent urination because caffeine is a diuretic, headaches, insomnia, restlessness, and decreased absorption of iron and calcium. And there are actually a number of conditions that will actually grow worse with caffeine use, one of which is adrenal exhaustion, as I've said, anxiety, chronic fatigue, fibrocystic breast disease, gastritis and ulcers, hypertension, insomnia, menopause symptoms, osteoporosis, and PMS, among others. If you're a coffee drinker, stay that way. Coffee is actually really good for you as long as you don't put sugar or some artificially flavored additive in it. But if you're using caffeine specifically for energy, you would, as I've said, achieve much better results with some of the energy alternatives I've already discussed, like CoQ10, ubiquinol, or chlorophyll, and even an energy source that boosts cardiovascular function, lowers blood sugar, and improves appetite. And that is something I'll discuss with you next time. Thanks for watching. I'm Jason Carter. Stay healthy.